I'm focused on this theory cause it keeps me from this fire. The Holy Ghost was with me, so my fear I leave behind. My sins were all diminished when he took that breath and died. And if you think I'ma give up on my God, the devil is a lie. The devil is a lie. The devil is a lie.
Hello, welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barr, and today we're going to be talking about this NBC News article. It started off with a tweet. There is an actual article, but it's funny because they make an announcement like something within the Trump administration is bad, and I'm like, that seems like that's actually pretty impressive. So I think you guys will get a kick out of it. Also, there's some more information that we found out about the Cinnabon mom, and we talked. Well, I guess we didn't know so much about her being a mom the other day, but Cinnabon, crazy lady and the altercation that she had there. And there's just more information that I learned that I thought was interesting, that I wanted to share because I'm just really baffled at some of the people who wanted to defend her and people who push back. And so I want to talk a little bit about that. Also, a little bit about Erika Kirk and still how some people are deciding to judge her. And yeah, there's quite a few things to talk about going on right now. But I want to say thank you guys for watching live. I see some people in the comments. I know Facebook and YouTube people can't see each other, but I can see you. So hello. Thank you to those who watch live and to those of you who watch back later. If you guys would like to support what I do, you guys can go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on my website, articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do here, you guys can leave a donation on the website because it does cost to stream. Or on my side, all that. So if you guys can support, I very much do appreciate it and appreciate you guys. You guys can check out different merch. It's also available on the store as well. So go ahead and check that out if you want, the last minute, like Christmas buys, do it, guys, especially for Bigger. As my paperback back there for my children's book, Bigger, about a little baby dinosaur who wants to be bigger. I did a video with my hardcover, so it's not in like reach right now. I didn't bring it back over here, but you guys know what it looks like. If you haven't gotten it, please go ahead and get it and leave a good review. I'm sure your kids will love it. I'm very happy about some of the feedback that I've gotten with Bigger and people even comparing it to like Hungry Caterpillar, as far as like I think the watercolor illustrations really remind them of that. So I had some people tell me that it's part of their kids' bedroom time routine. So that's very flattering. And my sister heard that and she just cried. So go ahead and check out that. I have other books as well that you guys can check out. One of them I do talk about often. I have nonfiction books, like of course, guys blatantly against abortion, but one of my books is of course, is The Color of God's Eyes, which is a historical fiction fantasy book, which is funny. I mentioned yesterday that some people were accusing me of being upset about the or my judgment being skewed because Crystal in the Cinnabon video said the N-word, and I'm like, if you picked up this book, you know that it's in there quite a few times. That's not why I was that offended. I was telling my sisters about that, and man, we were just laughing. We were just laughing. So anyway, it's a really good book. It's about a slave who gets super. It's like a historical fiction fantasy. It's like X-Men meets American Civil War. So there's a slave named Charlotte. She discovers she has powers, and of course she uses to set her free, but there's this group of people who believe her kind of abomination. So she's free in one sense, but also in danger in another sense. And she also has this forbidden romance with the master's son that she grew up with. And it's just really, really interesting. And there's this free man in New York named Cooper, who's really great, who, she starts developing feelings for too, and he falls in love with her. So there's a little triangle there, and it's all really good stuff. So if you guys haven't checked that out, I don't have any physical copies of that available right now. So you guys would have to actually go order that on Amazon. Bigger, I do have copies of that. I do still have very few hardcover copies if you want Bigger. And I have some paperback books. If people want the paperback, it is an option. It's a little less expensive than the hardcover. But when we run out of those, you guys, I'll put up a link that can take people right to I guess the people who make and print it, and they can get it to you. It just wouldn't be signed. So until I order some more, but you can still get it signed at this moment. So that option's available to you. So anyway, let's hop to it. So yesterday I saw a tweet that tickled me, and it tickled a lot of people. I think you guys are going to get a kick out of this. Okay. So NBC News tweeted out an article that they did. And in the article, they say more than a third of roughly 220,000 people arrested by ICE officers in their first 9 months of the Trump administration had no criminal histories, according to new data. So they said more than a third of the number. So if we're going to criticize Trump off of that number, like immediately, or off of this headline, my first thing that I wouldn't like about this particular headline is that 220,000 seems very low. That seems like a really low number if we want the greatest deportation in history, and they're going to have to rev up those numbers. I don't think at this point that they're going to like have the highest. I don't even know if they're going to hit Obama numbers. They'd have to really crank it up, and I just I don't think they're going to have that kind of juice. So you could prove me wrong. But does anyone else think like, man, only 220,000? So that's the negative part. It's probably not the part that NBC is predicting that people will say, "Oh my gosh." But I'm like, we gotta jack up those numbers a bit. But them saying more than a third of that number have no prior criminal history. Now, you probably are thinking, because I know I've read some of the comments under this NBC News article. You're probably thinking if they cross the border illegally, they have already committed a crime. They're not supposed to be here. They are well within their rights of being detained and deported. And there is some kind of legal process of like, hey, you got to send them back, and they get sent back. And there's nothing wrong with sending all of these people back who do not belong here. Of course, there are, I guess, difficult stories that some people could be like, oh, this kid came over as a child with their family, and they brought them over, and they've been here all this time, and sending them back. Of course, that is a situation their parents put them in. People keep saying this isn't what people voted for when it came to Trump and deportation. I have a firmer position of deportation than I guess a lot of people. Maybe it's not even a lot of people. Maybe I'm like dead center in the right about this. I feel like you cannot incentivize bad behavior. And if you do some kind of blanket amnesty and be like, no, they came over, everybody came over, like we're only going to push out really, really bad people and leave it at that. I still feel like that incentivizes too much bad behavior and rewards too much bad behavior. And there's people who need to go back, or at least we need to be very harsh about what they can have here as far as any kind of social safety net and things like that. And they're really going to need to be fined, and like there needs to be like a punishment and some kind of deterrent for people who come over here. Because if you get like a I don't know, some kind of softy president like another Obama or something, who's just going to want to blanket folks in or whatever, you're going to have another issue. And I don't want to have to worry about amnesty forever going forward. I just by the way, the birthright citizen case is going to be heard by the Supreme Court. I wonder how that's going to go, because I feel like that is an important thing to there's an interesting legal argument, obviously, to get rid of it. But it's been how we've operated for so long. I don't know how hungry the court is to just do away with that. And I think they're gonna have a heck of a good argument to really make the case. And I'm not saying there's not talented lawyers that couldn't make the case. I don't necessarily know that those are gonna be the ones that the White House hires to do it. But it's just gonna be a huge thing that happens. Now, one way or another, whether Trump can sign an executive order to do that, to read it that way, I don't know if that's gonna be a thing. Like, ruling on whether it says or whether Trump can decide that it says the thing are like two different things, I guess. But one way or another, even if there had to be state votes and it had to be like ratified and like or written into the law to just as a clarification that this is what this means, however legally we need to do it, I think it needs to be done one way or another, to stop people from coming over here like, about to pop, crossing the Rio Grande with a baby that's just like breaching the surface. And then just ploop, sploosh, there's an American citizen. Or these people who decide to have surrogates overseas, these people from overseas who will have surrogates, they pay for surrogates in America, and then their children get citizenship because they're the vessels um birth them here on US soil. So I don't think um that's sustainable in the long run for our country. I don't think that's sustainable. So we have to make sure there are really good guardrails put in place for the betterment of our immigration system, because right now the enforcement of the immigration is Donald Trump's will. And Donald Trump's will is a heck of a lot different than we saw Joe Biden's will on the matter. Well, there's going to be a new president eventually. Trump he's termed out. And who's going to be the next person? It could be you know, JD Vance. I think that's a lot of people look at the MAGA era apparent. I think Rubio, some people are like Vance, Rubio. I don't think I know Rubio was obviously willing to take back seat to be vice president this time around under consideration of Trump, but I don't know if he's at that point willing to take back seat to Vance. And I think he'd probably run on his own. And I think there'd be a good case out of anyone in Trump's administration with Rubio taking on 50 million jobs and being very competent, just as his role as a senator and just some of the committee and stuff that he was on. And that he'd be a decent choice. Now, he was squishy on that issue back in 2016. And Donald Trump took a very firm position on immigration. Has Rubio learned his lesson there? I don't know. It's still going to be a really important issue, but one way or another, I want there to be as much done on this issue as possible, not just with deporting people. I think you do have to deport people, but also in the long term, making sure that this kind of stuff can happen. Now, the next president can always just really not enforce the laws. that could be a thing too, because that's really the issue with Biden, right? That they didn't really enforce the way that they should have enforced the laws that were on the books. So Trump's just got to do what he can in the meantime. I think that's one reason why he felt like, well, let me just sign this executive order, and if they challenge it, they challenge it. And I have no idea how that's going to go. I figure I know what the left branch is going to do. I just don't know how everyone on the right's going to come together with that issue, because they don't just stomp for whoever is on their side. They try to actually look at the law and what it says, and they don't always rule in his favor, which is a good thing, like bump stock bans or something, they try to just look at the law, and I don't always agree with some of their decisions, but I think the people on the right side of the bench, they at least try to stick to their values, and they're not activists like Ketanji Brown Jackson, for example. Ketanji Brown Jackson has been saying some wild things on the Supreme Court, and it just makes me think about how so many people were so upset about Charlie Kirk and his brain cells comments and talking about particular black women and blah 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 and affirmative action. And I'm like, I cannot be mad at this man and call him a racist because he didn't like Ketanji Brown Jackson and thought she was a DEI hire. Like, it's obvious she was a DEI hire. Why should I have respect and stand by her as a black woman when she couldn't even have the courage to describe what a woman is because she is so full of her ideology? I have no camaraderie with her. No, I don't. I don't have to have any kind of loyalty to her just because I'm black and just because I'm a woman. I don't care for her, and I understand she's educated. There's a lot. Everyone knows someone who's really educated who's stupid. Everybody knows somebody who's probably gone to school and become really indoctrinated. Just because you have taken a lot of times in and studied different books doesn't mean that you know what you're talking about. It doesn't mean that you are plugged into the real world. So I'm not saying she isn't educated and isn't capable of being a good justice, but she has too much rot in her brain to do the right thing. So I don't care for Ketanji Brown. But anyway, back to this immigration thing. Sorry. So if you're reading more than a third of roughly 220,000 people arrested by ICE officers in the first 9 months of the Trump administration had no criminal histories. So again, you're probably thinking you crossed the border illegally, you're up for fair game because you obviously broke our law. You weren't supposed to just cross the border. Okay? But if you in your mind or someone told you like, hey, Donald Trump is deporting people without criminal histories, would your number automatically be that it's just around a third? Would is that where your mind would go? That it was only about a third? I'm like, only like a third? So you mean to tell me about 2/3 of the people that they've decided to send back do have some kind of criminal history? Is that what you're telling me? That sounds pretty good. Not that when Trump was like, "Oh, we're only gonna do the worst, I didn't believe that. I mean, I didn't really. That didn't make me excited. Like, oh yeah, he's only gonna do the worst of the worst. I'm like, no, if you break the law, you should, you're not supposed to be here. You cut the line. I know people who were trying to get into the U.S. and were doing all the right things, waiting in line to get here. A lot of legal immigrants who had to follow the process, did everything by the books, are the ones the most annoyed by these line jumpers. Okay. So, which isn't my case. I was born here, but long generations ago. But not I wasn't born long generation, but family's been here for a while. But I just don't think that NBC was aware that when they typed this up, that it would have the reaction, at least from Trump supporters, the way that it is. I mean, there's people obviously on the left who read it like, oh my gosh, she said Trump worst of the worst, which did they believe when he said that anyway? And they're like, oh, they're deporting all these people who don't even have all these criminal records. But my thought process is definitely it's only a third. I thought that number probably would have been higher. And out of that 220,000, you're telling me that's still a lot of people who's coming over here with some that have committed some kind of crime. Whether they're coming here with records or they're committing them while they're here. You better be such a Boy Scout if you have illegally crossed the border and then you want to be over here and not deported. You better be a Boy Scout, man. Best of the best behavior, not even a parking ticket. You shouldn't be taking welfare, any of that stuff, draining on the system. Best behavior, model citizen. And I'm not saying they didn't deport any model citizens, but how can you actually be a model citizen if you are not one, I suppose? Anyway, let's I saw quite a few people who had replied to this was just like, I don't think they realize what they're saying here. Um, let's see if there's some interesting quote retweets before we actually jump into the article. Yeah, Guy Benson was like, this really doesn't convey what they hoped it would. Now, Guy Benson, he's on Fox. He's on the right, obviously, and not extreme right or anything like that, or as I mean, maybe he might consider himself conservative. I don't. He's not conservative as I am, but he's like, yeah, it doesn't convey the message you think it does. AG Hamilton, I follow AG. If you don't, you should. So nearly 150,000 have had criminal records on top of being here illegally. How does it make sense to anyone to have policies that have allowed hundreds of thousands of people convicted of other crimes while being here illegally to avoid deportation until now? It's a good question. So, Inez Stepman. So 2/3 have criminal histories other than illegally being in the country, and probably the other one third were swept up in raids by being in the same car or hang out as those 2/3. Funny thing is, if liberal states would cooperate with ICE, they would be arresting criminals at the courthouse and not need to do as many raids on which they find additional aliens not on their original list. That is also true. They should stop trying to protect all these people who do heinous things or letting them back on the street or having these sanctuary laws, because they're going to try to pump up their numbers. And if they're going to do these raids and sweep and find other people to deport, that's what they'll do. But they're deporting somebody. They're deporting somebody. And Mike Lee said, an odd way, and this is Senator Mike Lee, by the way, an odd way to say that nearly 2/3 of people arrested by ICE have criminal records in BC. Regardless, ICE is supposed to remove illegals from our country, regardless of whether they have committed additional crimes, and many have. Great work, ICE. So, very, very silly headline. So I'll read a little bit of the article from NBC News. More than a third of the roughly 220,000 100,000 people arrested by ICE officers in the first 9 months of the Trump administration had no criminal histories, according to new data. The data, which includes ICE arrests from January 20 to October 15th, shows nearly 75,000 people with no criminal history records have been swept up in immigration operations that the president and his top officials have said would target murderers, rapists, and gang members. Yeah, that's a list of like people they might. I don't believe Trump is. I watched a lot of his content. I didn't watch every rally. They're long, and there's a lot of them. So I can't say definitively that he never said that he will only target murderers and rapists and gang members. That would be crazy if he said that, but I doubt that he did. And I wouldn't support that either way. Anyway, it contradicts what the administration has been saying about people who are convicted criminals and that they are going to go after the worst of the worst, said Ariel Ruiz Soto, senior policy analyst at the Migration Policy Institute. They never said that they weren't going to go after other people. They said they would focus on the worst, but y'all think this is what's also crazy to me. These people think he lies about everything else, and they just what? So that's the thing you're going to hold him to his word on. It is ICE's job to deport people who don't belong here. The figures provide the most revealing look look to date into the Trump administration's immigration crackdown, they were shared by the University of California, Berkeley's Deportation Data Project, which obtained them through a lawsuit brought against the Immigration and Customs Enforcement. The data is compiled by an internal ICE office that handles arrest, detention, and deportation data. The administration stopped regularly posting detailed information on ICE arrests in January. For arrestees with criminal histories, the data doesn't distinguish between those with a history of minor offenses, also still offenses, guys, and those who have committed more serious crimes like rape, murder, whom the administration has said it is targeting. And the figures do not include arrests by Maine Border Patrol, which has launched aggressive immigration operations in several cities, including Chicago, Los Angeles, and Charlotte, North Carolina. Border Patrol sweeps are currently underway in New Orleans. Oh, so there's more numbers. That's cool. Border Patrol and ICE are both under the Department of Homeland Security, but they are two different agencies with two different missions. Border Patrol agents typically operate along with southern or northern borders, but recently hundreds have been sent into the interior of the United States to track down undocumented immigrants. So that's some of the the article. You guys could go check out the rest of it if you want, but I thought it was funny. Again, I thought the number would be bigger as far as the number, but if you're telling me that the rest of that number, the 75,000, don't have, extra criminal history and everybody else does, bye. Like I think that's pretty good. I think that's pretty good. And NBC's lost the plot there. Definitely lost the plot. Anyway, moving on. I saw this video. Erika Kirk was on Hannity, talking about her husband's book, and I wanted to just watch this with you guys and just give some thoughts.
We're human. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's 31 years old, and that's way more profound than I think anything I could say.
He did not just write this book, he lived it. So when you feel something so deeply and you've experienced it and you lived it, you want to be able to tell other people, look, this will change your life. I know it might sound simple, but sometimes the best answers are the most simple ones. It is truth. And again, our whole team knew on days where he didn't get a full Sabbath and did, because he just was so locked in, and he just, again, was the most incredible man. But this just took him to a whole new level. And it was in a way where you would look at him and be like, whatever you're doing, I want to do. And he's like, here. And this is his final message. This is what I'm trying to express to people. This is Charlie's last book. So people can write books all about my husband and what he believed and what he said and analyze his videos. These are his words. And when you read them, you feel him come to life. It's powerful.
It is very powerful. And it really caused me, as I read it, again, I read the whole thing, and
I'll be honest, I can't read the last few pages. I'm not there yet. It's just emotionally, because once this book is done, it's done.
Of course. Yeah. I mean, everybody thinks we should all mourn a certain way.
Right.
Okay, well, until you walk a mile in someone else's
shoes, which I understand Erika saying that. So Charlie has a book, was writing on a book, working on a book, so they're gonna supposed to release his last book, but it was a religious book, Stop in the Name of God, and he would take Sabbath days and stuff, and I guess refocus and realign about what's really most important. And so she's saying that she can't finish reading the book, or hasn't finished reading the book, because once you get to the end, that's the last thing that he's pretty much written, and it feels like he's actually gone. So I had a similar experience when I was going through the book Seeking Allah, Finding Jesus about Nabil Qureshi, and I didn't discover Nabil until after he had passed. It was just maybe a couple of years ago. And I don't know, maybe it was just even like a year or two ago when I just kind of started seeing his videos. And then I started looking more into him. And I heard a friend of mine in church had brought up a psychopath named David who's a Christian. And I learned about these people separately, not understanding that when Nabil talked about his friend David, that was the David that my friend was telling me about. So I decided to get the audiobook of Nabil's book. And I knew he had passed by the time I started reading the book. And it was so good. And also David's testimony is so incredible. It's one of the most interesting testimonies I've ever heard in my life. He has a really good video on YouTube about it. And I've said that before. But once you get through the book, and the beginning chapters is him talking about his life as a Muslim growing up, so you can understand their culture, their religion, and his mindset and his connection with his family. So really you can understand a good way to reach them, and also understand how profound of a change this was for him, and how devastating it would be to finally make that switch and really devastate his family by becoming a Christian. So so it starts off with him talking about his life growing up, and then goes into when he meets David, and then David challenging him, and then him eventually like they became best friends, and he would started investigating Christianity, and then he was like David finally asked him, he's like, okay, like, we've been going at this for a while. Like, what do you believe? He's like, well, I think that like Christianity is like, there's like an 87% chance that it's true. And he's like, 87%? It's like, why don't you become a Christian? He's like, because I'm 100% sure that Islam is true. And then one of the other friends was just like, okay, well, why don't you've been investigating Christianity, like, well, why don't you investigate Islam like that? And so they came up with some parameters of how he'd have to analyze Islam to see if it was true. And so one was to look at the life of Muhammad. Another was to look at the validity of the Quran, to see like, oh, because they will say like, oh, the Bible's corrupted, there's all these translations and dumb stuff, but then they'll say that the Quran is perfectly preserved, which isn't true. And there might have, maybe those were just the two parameters, like looking at Muhammad and looking at the Quran itself. So he did some investigation and came to the conclusion that Islam couldn't be true. And then he was just devastated in that sense, and not wanting to believe that. And God had to do some supernatural sort of things for him. And he gave him some visions and dreams, which I'm not going to take up too much time talking about and stuff. But if you can find his testimony on YouTube where he talks about it. And he doesn't talk about all the visions and dreams, though. There's like 3 dreams, I think, that he talks about. He goes into detail, at least I think, about 2 of them. But if you want the full scope, you got to get the book, I guess. But he ends up having these visions and dreams and stuff to push him into like finally, surrendering. And it was really, really difficult for him once he told his family. Excuse me. And then he told God, like, after his family crashed out. And I don't know if crash out was they didn't like yell and other things like that. They were devastated. And his father was like, I feel like my spine has been ripped out of my body. And once he had upset them in such a way, he's like, God, why didn't you just like, once I became a Christian, why didn't you just kill me? Like, why did you just take my life? That way I could go to heaven and be with you and not have to devastate my family in this sort of way. And then God was just like, it's not about you, Nabil. It's not about you. And he just, came to the revelation of like, he had to just keep pushing forward and try to get other people saved and stuff. So he was going to be a doctor and stuff and graduating, but he decided to focus on ministry full time, which his family also was like devastated by that too. But he didn't have long for the world. He only had 12 more years. And so if only he had time for another book, he could have wrote a book. It was like 12 years of no longer being a slave to sin or something like that. Um when I was going through his book, if you're doing the audiobook, I don't know if this is the case for the paperback, but in the audiobook it gets to like the end of it, and then if him like starting off to do some ministry stuff, and then there's some chapters, reflections by I think his pastor and then his wife, because he did get married and have a child. And at the very end of it, they put a podcast on of Nabil and David just going through the whole story and talking about it. And once I got like toward that end of it, I was just like, I've been through this whole man's life. And now I'm getting to the end. And now I know he's been gone, but to me, it felt like he's really about to be gone. And because, it maybe seems silly or whatever because again, I knew he's already gone and I didn't know him before he died, but just, having this experience of going through his life and his emotions, his ups and downs and stuff. And the book was over and it's done. That's all he had to say in the end. So, I totally get what Erika is saying here. I totally get it. Like immediately I thought about how I felt listening to Nabil's book and listening to that podcast with him and David, and just like, this is it. This is going to be it. This is over. It's the end. And, even like thinking about, I don't know how hard Christmas will be this year. Cause you guys know my mom died last year, and she died before Christmas, but my mom shopped all year long. So there were still presents for basically everybody under the tree. And she had money that she had like set aside in different places and stuff. They were like, okay, we'll put some more of this to like get some more presents and stuff. And when we came downstairs and looked at the packages, her handwriting was still on the packages because my sister took her handwriting from like the envelopes from church and stuff, and because she would do the records, and so her handwriting, writing out my name Christina, was on the gifts that she gave to me or bought to give to me. So it was sad and it was emotional, but it was, very beautiful, the way that everybody stepped up for each other and stuff. But this will be the first one that'll be like nothing under the tree will actually be from her. So and my mom's, people talk about love languages and stuff. I would definitely say that acts of service and was probably my mom's. And boy, oh boy, did she do acts of service for my dad. And gift giving was a big one. Like you could mention something in passing, like, oh gosh, I need a new blow dryer or something, and she wouldn't say anything about it. It would just be under the tree. She was very thoughtful in that kind of way. She just wanted money from us though. She just wanted money. She just wanted money. We'd still get her some things or whatever. Like here's an hour massage at this place. Or one year I got her, she always loved having us like doing her massages, like her shoulders and stuff. We'd come home from church and she would line us up like one at a time, like, okay, send in this kid, send in that kid, send in that kid. And we'd just be massaging her tense shoulders. So one year I got her like a shiatsu massager. I was like, Mom, you're gonna love this gift. And she's like, and it's not money? And I'm like, no, Mom, it's not money, but you're gonna love this gift. And she's like, and it's not money? So she loved it, used it till it like burned out, and then she got another one. So I understand Erika. I mean, I can't completely understand Erika, but there's elements of the grief that she has in the process that she's going through that I can get. And it really sickens me. Some of the things that people have said about her. Um there was a tweet I saw. She was without somebody without she was out somewhere with someone and took a picture and she's smiling. And and someone was mocking her, as accusing her of not actually grieving. It was this patriot blonde, the epitome of grief, because she's with someone taking a photo, thumbs up and smiling. And how long is she not allowed to smile? You know, how long is she not allowed to smile? And she smiles for the camera, for a picture, and people mock her grief. But I mean, they analyze everything. They analyze everything about her. Candace Owens was on Russell Brand's show, and she kind of tried to seem like she walked back a bit, like some of her criticisms. And she was like, "Well, I just think that they shouldn't have hired her, because she'd have to ask all these questions as a CEO president, and it's like give her time to grieve and stuff." But the person who's causing all of this drama is Candace Owens. It's not everybody else. It's let me see if I can find the Russell Brand thing. But she's the one who's creating all the chaos. Like I don't know anyone else who has um these kind of comments for Erika. Not anyone with a big platform.
Erika thing is like, you got to be at some level terrified, right? It's either the greatest evil that ever happened, or she's terrified and she's in this position. And I think the mistake they made, and I've said on my podcast, she should have never become the CEO and chairman overnight, because now when people have questions, you got to answer them, right? Just a grieving widow, but you very quickly decided that you were equipped to be Charlie. Well, guess what? That's going to be a trial by fire. Charlie had to go through it. It's painful. And so people are feeling like, hey, it's not fair to ask her any questions because her husband just died. They should have put in place an interim CEO. Like that's what any company would do. You would just say for a couple of months, give everybody time to grieve and kind of address the fact that this is like a new company and like we've got to figure things out without the head of the company, So I think they made a managerial error. Erika thing is.
So what is it with Russell Brand always still kind of having his chest out like that? Anyway, that Candace Owens has said a lot more than I have questions, and hold on, I think this Washington Post video slowing on my computer. She has said more than, oh, it's a manager error, and well, she's got to answer the questions, and it's not fair to her to answer the questions because she's the CEO. She has doubted the actual succession plan. Like, oh, Charlie wrote some letters with different stuff saying like his plan, and oh, who boy genius wouldn't have had a will. They just found these notebooks that he had. By the way, the Turning Point, I guess, podcast on her allegations that's going to be on the 15th. They said Erika was the one who directed that to happen. I don't know if she's going to be there to address the stuff. I don't think that she should have to be there. I think it'd be more, I guess, maybe more powerful if she was. But they shouldn't have to do any of this stuff. And unfortunately, Charlie Kirk should have just been more upfront about Candace and a lot of the crazy stuff that she was saying, and just not left this door open for her to be like, well, I'm his best friend and I'm the only one who cares. Let me read these messages from 2018. It's like, you don't know that it's from 2018 because I won't put the dates on there, but look at all this stuff. We were such cute friends, and I miss him going out on dates, and he was so in love with these women or this woman, and I was his wing woman, and some people looked at that Russell Brand video and was like, Candace is telling on herself when she says there should have been some kind of other CEO in the meantime. And they're like, she thinks it should have been her. I don't know why someone in their right mind would think it would be Candace. But she was going off like really early on, like, you can't just replace Charlie, and I'm a Mason of Turning Point, blah, blah, blah. I don't know who she thought was going to step in that position. Like, if it was Andrew or other folks that were close to Turning Point, she would have had issues and questions and stuff for them as well. But as far as people who are making Erika's life miserable, the person who is doing that is Candace Owens. So Candace Owens, she could back off. Like, oh, people have questions. You have questions, Candace. We're talking about you. We're talking about you. So anyway, and a lot of her fans are saying they don't trust Erika and are mocking her grief and are excited in the comments when they think that she's talking about her, which she is. She's just not being super upfront about it. So anyway, I'm we're like less than a week out of Turning Point USA's video. By the way, Donald Trump has decided that he's going to give a payout to the farmers, and is framing it as if it's like cash back from all the tariffs, the money that was made. I'm not surprised that he's subsidizing the farmers. He did it last time he was president. And I know people feel differently about the tariffs, and there's a lot of distrust Trump people, but the tariffs did hurt them before. That's why they got the subsidies and the payouts. That's probably why he's doing it again. And there are some consequences of that stuff, how he's been wielding them. And I just hope those kind of consequences don't bleed out into the midterms, which presidents in power, they usually lose some seats and stuff. I so do not want Hakeem Jeffries to be the majority speaker in the House. I would hate that so much. So much. I guess we can't hold him off forever. But I really don't want it to happen. He's such a wacko. Such a wacko. Anyway. Last thing I want to touch on is this video that's been going viral online. Now, we talked about it yesterday. TMZ put out another video. Someone said they believe we will keep the house. We'll see, because there's these redistricting schemes and stuff. I'm not sure. We already have such a slim margin. We'll see. Did y'all see Crockett's running for Senate? That's gonna be hilarious. She's not gonna win, obviously, and it's gonna be something to build her personal brand. It'll obviously be something that'll give Republicans a lot to talk about. And she's the kind of candidate that Republicans want to point to and say, this is a crazy person who's a star in the Democrat Party, and it doesn't make them look good. So anyway, well, let's watch this video from TMZ. By the way, language. There's language in here.
What's recording doing for you? To show me who you are for the world. Get the fuck out of here. I remember you can tell without your face. Even though you pretend to be 5 different people, I still know who the fuck you are. Just because you put a bandana on your fucking head, does not mean you can come back and harass me. Oh, harass you? She came with the white bitch. She came back as a black bitch. We'll paint your face somewhere else, you fat, fucking ugly bug eyed. Yeah, right I am. Yeah, you get to go out. Psycho is cold. You're taking to the fucking mind. No, you need to go to the hospital. You need to get some help. I can't. You're right, but I would. But I would.
So that was another angle of what happened with the Cinnabon lady. I showed the other video of the couple actually had when they were filming her. So just FYI, there's cameras everywhere. If you cause some kind of scene, someone will record you somewhere. Like there was one lady at Tropical Smoothie who was like flipping out one time because if you ever go to Tropical Smoothie, they'll blend everything together and they put it in those big cups. And then sometimes there's still stuff left over. And so a woman was demanding what was left over to be put in a smaller cup. She's like, I paid for that. And they're like, no, you paid for this. We're not going to get you like an extra special cup for this. She's like, well, other Tropical Smoothies are down there. Like, well, we're told not to do that. And she flipped out. And so since she was having a crash out, because I also don't know how she's going to like tell corporate about that or lie about those people and stuff. And so anyway, I was like sitting from my seat eating my sandwich. You can't just crash out in front of everybody, guys. Everybody's got cameras. I never posted it though. I did. I was like, I'm sorry that you guys had to like go through that. And there's Tropical Smoothie is a chain, and this is one of the best ones like in the area. Their food and stuff is always on point. They blend the best smoothies. Like you could just drink them without like, I mean, you would take breaks or whatever, but sometimes you get to some smoothies and it's like a slush at the bottom and they don't blend it like that. And so I so prefer that particular one. So and everybody's nice, and usually when I go there, and I just didn't appreciate people acting crazy like that. But so this woman's name is Crystal, and she raised someone raised her $100,000 after she got terminated from Cinnabon. And the same person who arranged it apparently was the same person who arranged a fundraiser for that woman who called the child the N-word at the park, for the child allegedly was touching her stuff, or was in a bag or whatever that didn't belong to them, and she started saying bad language, and then she got raised a bunch of money. This is so much worse, and I don't know, I wasn't there. People are like, show the whole video of what happened before the hell they were harassing her. I don't know that there is a video of them instigating the entire thing. From what I've read in different articles though, they do claim that she said stuff about her hijab, and that kind of does make sense because the video that everyone else has seen that went viral, it starts off with them saying, do you think that being sexual exposing yourself or whatever that's not word for word, but that's the gist of it, makes you better? And people are like, oh, they're sexually harassing her. That's not sexual harassment. I don't think that passes the smell test. But her telling them to suck her private parts is sexual harassment. And in that particular video with the TMZ, she also threatened to like hit them, like actually threaten violence against them. So it wasn't just that she cursed at them. It wasn't just that she said the N-word. There's all these different things going on. And you cannot I don't know how much they harassed her or whatever before, or how much the recording and whatnot. They didn't have to do what they did, and they're all like, "Oh, your life is over. Your life is over," and like egging her on and stuff. They don't have to do that. But when you are working at any job, you don't act like that. So to me, it was crazy how many people were against Cinnabon, mad that they fired her. It was obviously the thing that any reasonable person would do. Obviously the reasonable thing that any person would do in that situation. And so other things have come out that she has a criminal history, because people are like, well, why would she just act like that? She seems, you can annoy people or upset people. Not everybody has it in them to do what she did. You can upset me, but I'm not going to get to that point where I do anything obscene like that. It's not in everybody to do what she did and behave the way that she did out in public. But she does have a history of disorderly conduct and child endangerment, which those charges were dropped, but drug charges and other things like that. She does have a rap sheet, driving under the influence. She does have a little bit of a rap sheet. So maybe she's just a hot mess individual that got caught on camera, dealing with some people. And maybe it's that simple. And some people are like, no, she has a biracial child. Now, she did say, apparently online, that she couldn't be like, oh, people are saying I'm racist when I have a colored child. And then she clarified in the comments that, okay, well, I guess her child isn't black, but he has some kind of condition that makes him darker, and people teased him for being darker, but he's not actually biracial. So you said you're going around saying you have a colored child? You know what people's insinuation is about that. And it's like, oh, well, no, he was just picked on. Which he didn't, the picture I saw, he was browner than she was, but he didn't look that dark. He wasn't like, he looked kind of tanned, I guess. And that was pretty much the heat of it. I'm like, where's she living that they teased him that much about it? That could just be a story. Maybe, unless he's like splotchy or something. I could see kids making fun of being splotchy or something. So she just sounds like a hot mess individual, and all these people gathered around together and raised $100,000. And I talked about it, and people are like, oh, why is this even news? It's news because people raised her $100,000. That's why it's news. Like, people do talk about crash outs, and they do go viral for here or there. But why is there all these articles about it? There's all these articles about it because people got together and decided to raise $100,000 for a woman who looked in the camera and said that she was racist and said these slurs, said all other kind of different things. And are people like super hyper focused on the fact that she said the N-word? Yeah, not me. I mean, there's not that I don't think she should have said that, but there's other things going on that are way more crazy, like threatening physical violence at the customers is way crazier in my opinion. And of course she needed to be fired. But there are people who told me, well, you just feel this way because she said the N-word, or your judgment is skewed. That's not what's going on. That's not what's going on. But if you gave, it's your money. Again, there's just so many people in need in this world, and I'm baffled by that's the cause that so many people decided to join up on. That's incredible to me. Anyway, that's all I got to say about that for the moment. To my next TikTok about it, I guess. There is a video of a woman who's going around. She's a black woman who was in a locker room at a gym, and then a trans woman came, and so she was upset and said something about it. And so she's been on the move. And so she confronted Eric Swalwell about it, I think. And she confronted, I don't know, I can't remember if it was Eric. She did Scott Wiener. She did talk to, and now Arok Khanna, she actually confronted about it. So I'm gonna go ahead and play the video of her confrontation.
Issue a sensational warning about hypothetical genital checks, but the real harassment of girls is happening right here under our current laws that allow men to self-ID into our spaces.
Well, I appreciate your speaking out, and I appreciate your sharing your concern about safety. I have always been concerned about safety, and that means that no matter what your gender or how you identify, you cannot harass someone in a locker room. So the problem with the example that you point out is someone was committing domestic violence or harassing, and I'll let you follow up on this. They should be prosecuted. That is unacceptable. But that has nothing to do, in my view, with someone who is trans and who identifies as a woman, saying that they can be using the locker room or bathroom which they identify with. That is their right. Now, if that person, if I could just finish, if there's a person who is harassing or a threat, then of course they need to be prosecuted. But I will let you respond.
I truly appreciate you allowing me to respond, sir. Listen to me. Women and men are not the same. There's no such thing as a trans. There are men injustice, and that's okay. But you cannot allow them to have civil laws. I heard you mention a couple bills you're going to go ahead and open up. You need to open up this bill and protect women, because none of the women in here are protected. It's okay. None of the women in here are protected by law. State law. State law is not protecting any of the women in here. And I'm not a Democrat or a Republican. I am a woman who's a lesbian, who was harassed in a locker room. I'm telling you right now that a lot of this is going on, and you need to do something about it. The Republicans will back you on it, because I hear that they've been fighting about this for a long time. It's the Democrats that need to do something about this law. The trans are not women, they are men with their pieces intact. And they're in women's prisons right now, raping and killing them, and it's going silent. And this is going to stop with me. So please, ladies, if you're going to vote for anyone, make sure that they're standing up for women's rights, because they're not. And if you're not aware, we are unprotected. Go in the bathroom right now, there could be a man in there, and he says, I'm a woman, and that's okay. Now, I know none of you think that's okay. Thank you so much.
Well, I appreciate you sharing your perspective. I certainly believe in safety, and I also believe in this country we recognize the dignity and rights of every person to pursue happiness.
You need to stop with the malarkey. They're men. Stop making excuses for grown men going in women's restrooms. I had it up to him. You're calmly lying and saying that it's okay. That's what you're saying. When you say that, you're saying it's okay. And I need you to say it's not okay for men to be in a women's locker room. There are bigger problems, yes. But this is a big problem. No, because you're lying. You're lying. You're lying. Protect women's safety, not men who want to be women. Women. I'm done. No. Men are not women, okay? Stop the malarkey now. You guys need to stop voting for these people. Y'all busy trying to be Democrats and Republicans. Y'all acting like gang members. Use your independent brain.
Dang, she said, y'all so busy trying to be Republicans and Democrats, y'all acting like gang members. Use your brain. Yeah, I appreciate her being so devoted to this particular topic and going on the move and having the boldness that she has. I'm gonna be honest, I feel like a lot of people, she checks certain boxes, so people feel like there are definitely people who still push back on her, but she kind of has more leeway than certain people to get up and say some things because she is a Black woman and because she's also a lesbian. And I have just put it out there that there are some people who feel like, oh, well, if I was in her shoes, yeah, I guess I would be, uncomfortable. And I'm like, where were you when Riley Gaines was saying this stuff about William Thomas or Leah Thomas? Where were all these people then? There were definitely people speaking up, but it's more, it's easier for people to speak up about it now, obviously. It shouldn't have been hard to do before, though. It shouldn't have been hard to do before. I commend her. But I do question, like, why did everybody give Riley Gaines such a hard time? And people still give Riley Gaines a hard time. And they like to mock her at every opportunity they can get. Like, oh, well, Riley, she didn't make the Olympics. And, what about her dreams? She wasn't actually that impressive. She was pretty impressive as an athlete. Was she the most impressive person in her field? No. But she had dreams of being a dentist. That was like the field that she was going to go into, and God just had other plans. But it shouldn't have had to have been Riley, and the girls in the locker rooms should not have had to have dealt with all that stuff while everyone was, doing puff pieces on this guy. Like, that's not what it should have been. She shouldn't have had to go through those things, and other people trying to stick up for these issues shouldn't have had to go through different things like Abigail Schreier and whatnot. But kudos to her, especially for taking it to the Democrats and calling them out and saying the Republicans want to do something, so you guys are the holdup, and them to try to weasel out of it like, oh well, I'm not for harassment, so that's wrong. Okay, well, we don't want them in our bathroom, sir. Because if we're like, hey, you're not supposed to be here, then they'll say that we're harassing them. And there's a reason why we have separate spaces, and there's a reason why we have separations as far as sex when it comes to the sports. So yeah, that's all I gotta say about that. Kudos to her. I do have a stalker that has been stalking my page. They left a comment on Facebook asking about where's the evidence about the 32 weeks pregnant lady just changing her mind and getting an abortion? You keep dodging that question. I don't remember being asked that question, but I'm going to recommend. Now, this person is a weirdo, but I'm going to recommend that you visit Secular Pro-Life's website, because they actually have some good articles about late-term abortion. Actually, I recommended an article about Secular Pro-Life because they'll break down a lot of propaganda that's been in different stories in ProPublica and different media about medical malpractice and the abortion laws. Things that people said about Adriana Smith and a lot of different stories that they really push to try to do pro-choice propaganda. And so Secular Pro-Life has archives detailing late-term abortion, the studies on late-term abortion, people who have spoken about late-term abortion, where there's people within the Shout Their Abortion movement, people have talked about it online, and then people have talked about it in different studies about it. The particular thing that I'm talking about and thinking of, about the 32 weeks that I had mentioned, was a woman who she discovered she was pregnant at 30 weeks and ended up aborting at 32 weeks. So I would think that a lot of these pro-choicers are like, that never happens, would actually support someone being able to abort that late if they didn't know that they were pregnant earlier. But the reality of late-term abortion is that a lot of people abort late for the same reasons that women will do it early. Maybe they had a financial change that allowed them to have the abortion late that they didn't have before. Like, there was a story about a woman who got, a financial bonus or whatever, like, okay, let's go have this abortion. There's people who maybe they lost a job, maybe their boyfriend left them. Those reasons aren't good reasons to have abortions early, by the way. It's the same human being the whole entire time. I don't find the late term, like we'll bring up late term abortions, or we'll have to bring up the facts about late-term abortions, usually in response to pro-choice people bringing up that most abortions happen early. I don't care that most happen early. It's evil throughout the entire pregnancy. It's the same human being, whether you kill them at 32 weeks or you kill them at 12 weeks. I don't support either way. So when people are like, well, most happen early, what does that matter? What does that matter? And then you can bring up examples of how it happens still later. And people will say things like, oh, well, I don't actually care. Like that happened like this past weekend. I was going back and forth with someone, and eventually they're just like, well, I don't care. Women can have an abortion after I presented data. So secular pro-life does have a lot of this stuff archived, and including talking about Dr. Warren Hearn, who was out of Colorado. He retired, but he had an abortion clinic. Colorado has very extreme abortion laws, and he did third trimester abortions where they actually induce fetal demise. They inject like a poison into the baby's heart, and then they deliver a dead child. It's a multi-day procedure, and they said half the stories from the clinic, are like sad stories where women feel like they're basically doing a mercy killing for their child. But they said this is half. Like Dr. Warren Hearn is willing to do even sex selective abortions, and he has. So late term abortion clinics really hate this propaganda from pro-choice people who pretend like late term abortions aren't a thing, because they don't want to stigmatize their customers. And if they have a reason to go and have an abortion, they feel like any reason is valid and they should be able to get one where it is legal to get one. And I guess the last thing I want to mention about this is that if you look up Kermit Gosnell, which Kermit Gosnell wasn't, he was doing like illegal abortions very late, and he was not doing them obviously in up to code, I guess you could say. But if you look at, I'll spare you the grim details of pulling up Baby Boy A on here, to my audience. If you have the courage, you can Google Baby Boy A, and it'll bring you to a website about Kermit Gosnell, about a movie that was done about Kermit Gosnell. And they will have a real life picture of Baby Boy A, because Kermit Gosnell is in jail. He would induce the labor of the women and then like snip the spines of the babies. That's what he would do. And this particular Baby Boy A, was at least 32 weeks. He could have been bigger. Like he would joke about like, oh, he could walk me to school, So was it legal for him to operate in the way that he did? No, that's not my point in bringing up the story. My point in bringing up the story is that he had clients who were willing to come to him while they were having very late abortions, and for him to operate in such a crazy sort of way. And people who were willing to work with him too. But the point is, if he has a mother who's 32 weeks out and is willing to go get an abortion that late, why is it so odd for people to understand that women would be willing to do that at clinics where 34-week abortions are available? Well, like, and what's crazy is they act like that's just not what would happen. And when you present the evidence, they're like, well, women should be able to do it one way or another. So there goes my stalker. Yeah, so she had commented earlier. I don't know if she's watching, but I'm not about to derail my whole podcast when you're saying something that's not even about anything that I'm talking about. She left a bunch of comments on a link of something where I don't even think she read the article. If I find out she didn't read the article, I'm just going to block her, because I feel like if I post an article and you want to comment about other things and you didn't read my article that I took time to write, you ain't got to be on my page. And she also like left a negative review on my page too. So she's just I don't understand like hanging around a place that you don't want to be at online. Just other things I'd rather do with my life and my time. I don't understand it. Like if you're like, oh no, I get good conversations with these people, that's one thing. But not people like that. Not people like that. And other people who've been like stalking and kind of harassing my page. Anyway, That's all I got for you guys today. Please go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on the website, articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation on the website because it does cost to stream, run my site, all the good stuff you guys can support. I very much do appreciate it. Appreciate you guys. You guys can go to the website if you want to donate, but you guys can check out different merch that's available there. And if you are interested in any of my books, like Bigger, you guys can click on the link that'll take you to my book website where you guys can pick that up. So Christmas is just around the corner, so get that for somebody you love. Anyway, God bless you guys, and I will see you on tomorrow.